The 42nd season on the Wiesmann Luge World Cup Tour is underway. This is day number 1. We're just outside of the city of Innsbruck in the Tyrolean Alps, Igls, Austria. Hi everyone, I'm Tim Singer. Race number 1 has already taken place earlier today, the women's singles competition. Crazy, unpredictable race. Now we get ready for the men's doubles competition. Right now I'm pleased to introduce our guest athlete commentator from Team Austria, Madeline Igls. And Madeline, here is the track. And you know as well as anyone that this track in Igls is no longer the easy track it once was. It has problems everywhere, right?
Yeah, thanks Tim for having me. I really have to say, at our women's race, a lot of people had problems. So the track is not in the easiest conditions. But, well, the one who handles it best will win.
Problems begin right away because the start curve is a challenge in doubles and singles. Then you have the Kreisel.
Yeah, and then out of Kreisel it's not too easy to make like this point to get like just middle into 8 because too early is not the best. Going into Kreisel, a good 9. Entrance out of 9 is so important to take all the speed with you. 10 of course is preparing the labyrinth. So you shouldn't go too early into the labyrinth, otherwise it's going hard. It's hard to kind of get the right speed. Yeah, and the finish curve is like the last one where you can lose some time.
And if you make a mistake in 13, you've got the uphill before the finish line, so that really can cost you. The track record will probably not be challenged, 39.4. In the women's race earlier today, no one came within 0.3 of a second of the track record. So if you look here, you'll see the starting lineup, 24 sleds in today's start list. And I gotta predict, Madeline, this will be a little easier to call than the women's competition, because at the end of the day, we probably will see Germans, we probably will see at least one Austrian, maybe the Latvians and Russians, right?
Yeah, that's true. I think like doubles won't be that surprising.
Women, no one knew. No one knew even before run number 1. There were 7, 8 names thrown out there. So sit back, get ready for our opening World Cup doubles competition. First up, we've got a couple of young teams, so I know nothing about these 18-year-olds. Your teammates Gott and Schultz. What can you tell us?
They're still very young, so this is their first World Cup run. They were pretty lucky yesterday, so it's cool that they can start for the first World Cup. Just get some experience. Not a really good start curve now.
No, is this curve 5, the start curve, maybe too tough? Did they ever talk about straightening that out a bit?
I actually have to admit, at the moment, it's in some really good shape. Oh yeah, having some huge problems. No, at the moment the start curve actually is in some good shape. It's always hard, and it always will be hard, so this is what Igls makes harder, you know?
Sure. Well, that speed, you're going to see speeds closer to 110 kilometers an hour today, so this is no indication of what's to come for the Austrians. And, well, we know certainly that Stoy and Kohler are on board the entire season. What's the situation with Mueller and Frauscher and these guys? Is this a one race and then wait for these two?
Yeah, after that they will go to the juniors back. Yuri has his A-levels this year, so he won't compete and he won't go like, I think he's just doing like all the juniors races. Miller Frauscher are planned for the whole season, so
that they're going to be fun to watch as they start as a new Austrian team. They're coming up in a little bit, but we're underway here as the Austrian team is down, and another young team making their World Cup debut is this team from Moldova, Sistenu and Opria.
I have to admit I've never heard or seen of them, so let's be excited what they can do.
It's great to see their country here in a World Cup.
That's true, yeah.
And we've seen slow progress from some of the small countries, Romania, Poland, so maybe a new country in Moldova.
Yeah, they even have a woman, I think, the Moldavians, and a man.
That's right. Maybe we'll see them in the relay tomorrow. That was kind of a weak finish last year in Sochi at the World Cup final. Only 5 teams in the relay.
Yeah.
So it'd be nice to see us back up to the 12, 13, 14
That would be great.
that we've had in some of the races. So early going as they move into the green, not a shock. Let's talk a little bit about women's doubles. That's a new discipline, Youth Olympics, where you've been in the Youth Olympics. They will have a women's doubles competition. What do you know about it?
Well, I think I kind of know a little bit about it because my sister is doing women's doubles. The sleds are like, I think the high point is a little bit lower than in the man doubles, so it's a bit easier. It's a bit easier to steer and everything because they didn't want it to make it so hard for women. And they're a bit scared, I think, that they hurt each other,
right,
like at the race or in the track somewhere.
Well, I hear there are 12 or 13 sleds in the women's junior doubles competition here in Innsbruck next week. So that's a very good sign.
Yeah.
Okay, so two unknown or relatively young teams are through, but now we have familiar names coming up. The one USA sled, having qualified yesterday in Nations Cup, this is Chris Masder and Jason Turdeman. Masder, a multi-time World Cup winner in singles and Olympic silver medalist. Turdeman was part of a top 3 World Cup overall sled several years ago with Matt Mortensen. They've been struggling with injuries. That's been their problem, Madeline, the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I don't know exactly. Ooh, very bad start curve. I've heard of their problem, but I don't know what exactly they have.
Well, Chris keeps injuring his arm. He's had shoulder problems. He missed some of last year. Jason, not as many injuries. They also have a brand new sled.
Oh.
And Jason said it's going to take a long time, a slow work in progress.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, they're having some problems right now. It's not too easy to handle your new sled, and having like always injuries is making you a bit unsure. So let's hope that he will figure it out and that he will come back stronger.
Well, their big advantage over the first two sleds is simply a matter of experience on this track and in this sport, but that is not a green time that is going to hold up for long.
No, because like the double they got just right now, the other doubles had also problems, so...
Wow,
not
right
really
at the start. I mean, some people weren't even sure if Chris was going to go, and of course he competes in doubles and singles, which used to be common, but now almost never happens.
Yeah, and it's really exhausting to go like from men's start to women's start, back to men's start and everything. I think that's not really easy because it's so different. And I have huge respect if he's like keeping doing it.
Yeah, that's a lot of work. Well, it'll be interesting to see when we come to North America for the next few races. Well, the USA will have any young teams also taking part. But now we move to the Romanians, Anderlecht and Alenai. This again is another World Cup debut, a young team. But Romania, they're always there every week, every race. That's good to see.
Might be some junior doubles, like from the last years. I don't know.
Yeah, actually, now that you mention it, I think we did see them in Koenigsegg last year, this team. They did take part in the relay.
Or was it Kitla? I don't know. I'm not sure. I thought there was another Romanian double.
Well, maybe.
Right.
They're well out in front of the Americans. 107.2 is more, closer to decent speed, as they will cross in the lead. We won't have to wait too long because the Italians are coming up in a couple of sleds, Reeder and Rastner, and they're really one that might make a difference today.
Yeah, but these two guys had a solid run, and I think they can be happy with this one.
For sure. Hey, by the way, if you're tuning in, it's not as early as the start of the women's race, especially if you're in North America, but thanks for joining us. We're in over 25 countries, and if you want to share your thoughts and comments, you can tweet us at Luge Announcer. You can also email us, luge.announcer@gmail.com. And Madeline's happy to answer any questions you have about run number 2 this morning. Right?
Sure.
Okay, you know, you always have good spectators here. They do love Luge in Innsbruck, don't they?
Yeah. I think it's like, it's something that people know. Like next to alpine skiing, that is like really huge here. Or
just
jumping.
winter sport, right?
Yeah, winter sport
with the
nation.
skiing, skating, the hockey, the bobsleigh, the skeleton. Okay, such coordination in doubles where the two athletes have to paddle together or at least try their best. And it was a clean opening there for the team from Czech Republic, Pekny and Videlek. The bottom man, Pekny, just 18 years old. And this is their second season. They competed all of last year as well.
Well, that's something to go with.
16th in the World Cup overall last season.
Now having some tiny problems.
So have you ever been on a double sled?
I actually have been once, but it was not the best experience because we crashed in the finish curve here in Igls. So I went with my sister, and well, I don't know, we wanted to be like, show everyone and wanted to paddle, and I didn't get into the handles.
Okay.
I couldn't get them. So.
But she's good?
Oh yeah, she's good. She really loves us. She likes it.
It's great to see. Of course, when your older sister wins an Olympic medal, that's motivation, right?
Yeah. I think she's totally motivated to give everything.
We'll see the men's competition tomorrow. Josef Ninnis right there. He'll be taking part. But now our race moves along. Rieder Rassner. They have won a World Cup podium. It was on this track a couple of years ago. Last season was kind of a lost season for them. Rassner broke his leg. They didn't take part in much of the season, but they're good. And they're good on this track.
I think Rassner broke his leg like right in the same week of the World Championships. So, and the rest of their season was not really good, so now it's time to make it better.
They ended up 6th at the World Championships, which shows what they can do, but 11th in the overall World Cup. Bad problems. So it was at 9 to 10, right?
Yeah, they had a huge skid.
Wow, so that's a bit of a surprise as they're going to fall
oh my
back.
God, and the finish curve.
This has been an amazing day, Madeline, in that these athletes that know this track so well, Andrea, yourself, Rieder Rassner, it's not like you can have a free ride. I mean,
Yeah.
everyone's got the same challenge today.
That's true. And mistakes happen. And today there happened a lot of mistakes.
So I asked Johnny Gustafson about this earlier. If we see curve 10 here, they bring up a lot of ice. Will that affect the next sleds?
Well, I'm not sure if it affects them because like your steels are not going this much into the ice.
Okay. That's a great point.
But I actually have to admit I don't have this much experience in like making the ice. If you would take me and I had to make the track, I probably would do it absolutely wrong.
Right.
So don't take me as a track worker.
Well, Ludwig's thumbs down tells you all you need to know about that run as the Italians are back in 4th place through the first 6. 24 sleds qualified. Actually, 24 sleds are entered into the field, and 13 of them qualified yesterday in the Nations Cup event. And it was a nice showing by this team from the Ukraine, Shtakiv and Lisetsky. Look at that, tied to the 1,000th of a second at the start.
Yeah, that happens, right?
Well, that happened on the podium in the race earlier today.
Yeah.
Where 3rd place, 2 German women, tied to the 1,000th of a second.
I think that's always the best because then there's no 4th place, you know? Like.
That's right. And if they did not make it onto the podium, ended up 4th, which was close to happening.
They share it together.
Yeah, and we were wondering when the last race was in Women's World Cup that no German was on the podium. And it almost happened earlier today, right?
True, yeah.
It's not going to happen here in the doubles race. So that's a bold prediction I'm making right now. So Shtakov and Lisetsky cross into the lead. They're 800ths or 83 thousandths to be precise in front. It's dominated Eastern European leaderboard in the early going. Ukraine, Romania, and Czech Republic, the top three. This is a big, long ramp, and you don't remember, you're too young for this, Madeline, but when I first came and covered World Cup races here, they didn't have that big building. And what they had right about where the building starts is a big pad, big cushion.
So you were like...
You would just hit the cushion really fast.
It's a bit like a skeleton.
That's right. Now it's Slovakia, Vaverchek and Schmish. They competed last year in the World Cup. I believe they were around the entire season. No, they weren't. They went back and forth between juniors and seniors and ended up in the top 5 in the Junior World Cup.
Oh, that's not too bad.
No, not bad at all. 21st in the Senior Tour. Through the Kreisel, in the green, the lead right now.
Bit late into 9.
Both of them are 20 years old. They were born a month apart, still students. It's some people will tell you it takes a long time for a doubles team to mesh, to gel together, but then others can do it right away. That will be interesting to see in a little bit with Mueller and Frauscher.
Yeah, I mean, like, because Armin he's got a really good feeling on his sled, so he can manage to do a lot of pro ones to make them not as bad as they seem. And Yannick is still young, so I am really excited what they are going to do and how they will handle this World Cup year.
Will they be around the entire season?
Yes, they should be.
Head over to North America. Okay. So right now we have Slovakia leading over Ukraine, Romania, Czech Republic, United States, Italy, Austria, Moldavia. You got 8 different nations that have come down, and here is our first repeat country, Ukraine. This is actually the younger of the Ukraine teams. Their first World Cup race, Igls Hoy. And this is Miroslav Lekjevich. Did I do okay with that? Levkevich. They're both 20. Levkevich from Kiev.
Yeah, pretty young people are here.
And this is actually their second World Cup race. They did one last year.
They're already behind like 2 tenths, so they got to make it up.
Well, and this is what happened. Ooh, they came close to banging between 9 and 10. The finish of the women's race earlier today, in the end, the big names ended up on the top. But what was happening to those?
God.
What was happening to those times from, say, curve 9 to the bottom? Even when someone had a clean run,
well,
they would lose 2 tenths.
I think like the track got a bit slower because like the wind and everything is slowing it up. So because out of Kreisel, like everyone lost tons of time and you couldn't see like the mistakes.
Right. Okay.
I mean, Tatiana had a really good run.
She sure did. And you had a good run. Andre had a good run. And the 3 of you went early. But then at the end, some of the others like Yulia and Summer, they ended up on the podium. But surprisingly, they had no chance to catch Ivanov.
Yeah.
And it was interesting to see.
It's hard to say how much is the track, or was it like the steels? Maybe it's hard to see like which conditions are perfect for those steels. So, but I'm not an expert in it, so.
No? Well, you're being paid today to be the expert, just for the record. Okay, it's been great to see the Korean program stay involved after hosting the Olympic Games. We don't know when we'll end up in Pyeongchang again for a race, but we do know that they do bring a team around the world, including Park and Chung. These are the oldest of the Koreans in terms of experience. Eileen Frisch did not race earlier today in the women's race, but she's helping to coach today.
Yeah, I think she's still in some pain because of her crash last year in Overhof. So she's trying to help her teammates to get better and better.
And I'm informed there will be a World Cup race next year in Pyeongchang, presumably right before the Olympic test event in Beijing.
Yeah, I've already heard.
and Asian championships will be there this year. So save up your miles so you can fly business class on that long flight, right?
That would be nice, yeah.
Across the finish line in second place. So how about the Slovakians, Verček and Schmish, continuing to lead the way. We've had 10 sleds come down. Doubles field each week is 24 teams.
The next team is Kmielowski-Kowalewski. They are pretty fast joggers.
Love to see this Polish team. They've done so well.
I think they started 2.02 yesterday in the seated training. So, and the start record is like 2:01. And so let's get excited if they want to break it or not.
Yeah, I mean, that's the real question. Of the nations, who's the next country? If you're watching, you can weigh in and send us a tweet or an email. Who's the next country that will win its first ever World Cup medal? Will the Romanians finally win one? Will Ukraine, a country that's never won one, but will be the next to win it? It could be this sled. Maybe not here.
Yeah,
but
maybe
they've shown a lot.
But they are really, they just need to work on their consistency a bit more, and then they really do have the chance to be like the nation making the surprise.
They finished 12th at the Olympics. That was still as 22-year-olds. They also were part of a Poland team that always does well in relay. They always finish 6th, 7th, and 8th. They have some young women now on the Polish team, and their oldest man has retired to coaching. But look at this great time for them.
Yeah, they're showing a pretty good run. So let's see what this time says.
0.4 of a second. So to coin a phrase, they have blown away the field. Of course, we're just shy of halfway through this race. But that was great.
Yeah, and 40.34 is not a bad time. So that's something to work with.
So they may be the next nation to win, maybe this year, maybe next, to be the newest World Cup medal. Maybe Australia.
Well, Australia, did they have a double?
No, I'm saying in any discipline, country that's never won a medal or hasn't for 20 years. Maybe it'll be fun to see. That's always fun in this sport.
Yeah, that's the surprising thing.
When a country wins its first medal. We talk a lot about the Germans and the Austrians and the Americans and Canadians and Russians, but there are a lot of nations here.
So let's see what our team's now doing.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Yannick Mueller and Armin Frauscher. Frauscher has won 2 World Cup medals in singles over the last 4 years, but just was kind of on the outside looking in and made the decision to hook in with Yannick Mueller, and we'll see.
Yeah, and I think Armin, he really does like it, and he's got like a new challenge for him. So let's see what they can do, and they really have not a really good start curve here. Oh, that's not really good.
How much of what we're seeing today, Madeline, is you spent all summer thinking about this first race and maybe you're just a little tight?
That's true. It's just always hard to you have no idea where you stand before the first race. Because training's always different than racing. Oh, not.
So lessons learned, Yannick Mueller, Armin Frauscher.
Oh, God.
They're still skidding down in the lower labyrinth.
Yeah.
And this is one to forget.
That's something to experience. Take the experience with you. And
as you know better than anyone, they still have the opportunity to have a great second run. That's the goal now.
Yeah, that's all they can do. Just focus on the second run, put the first run away. Take some things that are good, but the start curve was not the best. Could go better. So, I mean, the start time of them, 2:05, is, I think, their best they've ever had. So, they have to pick the things they need.
Armin Frauscher was really a place or two away, actually, ironically, from making the Olympic team as a singles slider in 2018. He was close.
Yeah.
Instead, David Gleicher took that spot. What happened to him at the Olympics? Gleicher. Oh, he ended up winning, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing what fate can do. So, the second of 2 Austrians done. Only 1 American sled, only 1 Canadian sled, as both of those North American nations are trying very hard to rebuild their doubles programs. Tristan Walker and Justin Smith.
Yeah, it's not too easy to find new doubles because, of the people, and it's hard. think like the first years of going as a double are almost always hard.
They're Olympic silver medalists as part of the relay. That was long in coming. Patience paid off for this doubles team, who also finished 4th at the previous Olympics.
They're already 600s back. See if they can make it up or if they lose some more speed.
Admittedly, they're coming off of one of their most disappointing seasons, finishing 10th last year in the World Cup. This is certainly a team that can improve on that this year.
Yeah, they had a pretty late finish curve, but the rest looked good.
Second place, but well in back of the Polish team. So it's Poland, Canada, Slovakia, Korea, and Ukraine. That's the top 5 coming out of the qualifying group as we move now to the seeded sleds.
Looked like they had problems to get into their handles, but they handled the start curve pretty well. Just I think in doubles, like the start curve is the hardest part of the track.
Which curve?
The start curve.
Start curve for doubles. Some women would say that too. Sure,
Yeah.
it's a big left-hand turn. So Justin Smith doing the sportsmanlike fist bumps for the Austrian luge fans.
His mustache.
The assistant sporting a new mustache style this year. Yeah. Okay, now we hit the seeded group, which has an Italian team, an Austrian team, then 3 Russians, 3 Latvians, and 3 Germans. Gudramovic and Kalnin's, Madeline, I think yesterday had the fastest time in the final day of training.
Yeah, I think so. They've been pretty fast. So when they have a good run, we will see where the time will lead and what time the Polish guys is worth. But they are back a lot.
So much. And it's tough to quantify, to figure out where they lost a quarter of a second already.
Well, I'm not sure if I can. I mean, now they kind of
making up time. Speed is good, actually. 109.5, second fastest speed, tied for the second fastest. But Poland had 111 kilometers an hour, which is 1.5 more than anyone.
Yeah, I mean the Polish guys were 200s better at the start. Or no, they were 500s better at the start, sorry. So they just didn't get off the handles very well. It looks like it.
A clean exit of curve 9. Head may be up a little too much. Is that possible?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm the expert on that. But
I just feel like he didn't feel safe, so he put his head up.
Okay.
Because he was like really on the right side and was not sure if he's hitting the wall or not.
Understandable. Well, there are 3 Russian sleds in today's doubles race. Truth be told, there are probably 4 Russian sleds that could all win the World Championship this year. I mean, one of the sleds, Bogdanovic's sled, is not even in today's race, but we have the 3 Russians. And there may be no stopping them in Sochi. I mean, you were at the World Cup finale last year, right?
Yeah.
It was...
They just had so good lines, and they kind of showed what they can do. And the track was not the easiest. So, and they know it, how to do it, even if it's not easy.
Kashkin and Korshunov, the youngest of the 4 Russian teams, 2018 Junior World Cup champions. They finished 10th at the Senior Worlds last year in winter break.
Yeah, and showing some pretty good start curve. So let's see what they can do and what the Polish time is worth, because at the moment it looks like everyone's losing a bit on them.
Well, they're keeping it close, 400s. And one thing from the last sled we saw from the Latvians is time can be made up on the second half of this track, which is good.
Now they kind of had a little skid, I think, into 10. Oh, and Labyrinth doesn't look very clean.
They had a chance as they cut it to 300s, but I think those skids certainly cost them in the end. Second place, 700s back. Okay, Albert's
seems to be happy.
He's keeping his good spirit about him. Why not? He had a victory already today with the women.
Maybe he thinks it's close, so they can make it up. And he's still got...
Yeah, he's still got other teams. Denisov and Antonov. They're going to be amazing all year.
Well, excited for this season. Who's going to be like the real one?
And everyone's excited, Madeline, about women, especially. It's the first year I remember that everyone's been excited.
Because normally everyone was like, okay, women's competition is not that interesting. Like men was always interesting.
Right. Now all three may be interesting. Although until I see otherwise, there are only about 3 or 4 or 5 maybe double sleds.
Yeah.
Podium slides every week. Quick update, bib number 9, the second of the Ukrainian teams, Hoy and Lexkovich. They have been disqualified for being overweight. They got the red flag, they had their sled taken care of, and Christian measured that sled overweight. So that's unfortunate, as the Italian team of Nagler and Malaya now on course. This is a good young team. They surprised a lot of people in the Olympic year, showing up and finished 7th that year.
Yeah, and I think they even won a World Cup, I think Altenburg something. So they really showed what they can do.
Came out of nowhere, but they did miss some of last year. I think one of them had military responsibilities, so they missed 3 or 4 races.
And I think like Nagel hurt his hand, so he couldn't start that good. I don't know if you remember Koenigsee. He had some issues with his hand.
I don't, yeah. He was dealing with the weather there, weren't we all? Big skid there at the finish, so they won't catch up. In fact, they dropped from 2nd to 5th. And there's Sandra Robacher. Speaking of injuries, Sandra from the women's competition, she's here taking it in. She hopes to compete in the second half of the season for the Italian women. And talk about surprise race winners in Altenburg.
Yeah.
Sandra was one last year.
Yeah, that was amazing as well. Yeah, let's hope that she's coming back stronger and that she really cures her shoulder out before she starts again. That's so important.
When that happens at the beginning of the year.
But it's good to see her here. So, and she's smiling, so she didn't give up yet.
The Italians are down, and they are down right now in 5th place. Their teammates way back in 13th. Okay, we have our final 8 sleds now here in run number 1. 3 of them from Germany. The Germans have swept the podium on several occasions the last 3 or 4 years, but no mistake about it. Last year was a season to forget for these two.
Definitely.
Robin Goyaka, David Gamm. They were expecting big things. They won the national championship. They were world championships on their home track, but every week something seemed to happen.
Yeah, so let's see if they kind of got out of their hole and kind of managed to have a good new season and like just cross out the last season.
Finished 6th overall in the World Cup, but that's after being 4th the 2 previous years. It's tough enough being the 3rd in the depth for the Germans and not making the Olympics.
Yeah.
But then you want to really show it off in the World Cup.
And the run looks okay, not too good, but they're losing a bit of time.
Goyaka and Gamm, they're from Winterberg.
Only 5th, yeah.
And they cross in 5th place. Norbert Lachen only talked to himself. I'm not sure what he's saying.
He doesn't seem too happy.
Yeah.
He's more like, oh, well, I don't know.
And I know that some of the regions in Germany, like the Thuringian region of Oberhof, they have their own kind of separate coaches as well. But the Winterberg people, there's a program there, but they don't travel on the World Cup with a Winterberg team, I don't think. So it's always a little challenging.
I think they and Cheyenne Rosenthal
right.
are the only Winterberg.
From Winterberg. Felix Locke getting ready to race tomorrow, the 2-time Olympic champion. Among those watching.
Yeah, it's going to get interesting tomorrow as well.
From Latvia, Kristins Putins, Imants Marcinkevich, 24 and 25 years old. 7th overall in the World Cup last year. 9th place at the World Championships.
Not the best start curve here.
They had one of their best ever results, a 4th place in the World Cup last year on this track at the World Cup opener.
So 1600 is okay, something to make up. But now having some
foot
problems.
tap. So quick recovery, but what will that cost them?
Well, it's hard to say, but now they got 24, and then again, feet down. They don't feel too comfortable through the labyrinth.
Virtually a quarter of a second back at the last split, and they add to that, so 8th place for the Latvians.
It's just down there you make the speed, and if you make mistakes up there.
So as we pay attention and introduce you to each new sled in this new season, let's not forget who continues to lead.
Yeah.
Poland continues to lead with just 6 sleds remaining. So great showing for Chmielewski and Kowalewski.
Maybe it's coming sooner than we think. But let's see what the others swing. Now the first German team's coming, or the second, I'm sorry. Let's see what time they get, because then I think we kind of can say what will happen.
The Tobys are up next. Toby Vendel, Toby Alt, the Bavarians. They are also Olympic gold medalists, of course, 2-time Olympic gold medalists in doubles. They also took a relay gold. And Toby's finished 7th to open up last year. And they have gone on record saying that they really are kind of tired on the World Cup of being beaten by their fellow Germans, Egert and Benniken. Even though they win a lot of the big races, they want to be more consistent this year.
Yeah, remember, they sometimes had some huge troubles.
They've been training well, and they did a nice job, about as nice as you can do there, although it was only the 6th fastest start time. Someone's yelling alongside the track.
Yeah, someone's really shouting out loud. That's 400, so that's something to make up.
On record, to be exact, they have 4 Olympic gold medals, 2 in doubles, 2 in relay. They're clean, they're down the center, they can make up 200s, but they have a bit of a skid now, a bigger skid. Wow, lower labyrinth has been amazing battle.
Yeah, and it's 500s back, so the Polish guys are
Polish
still
is still in the
remaining.
lead. They would have erased that deficit. They had cut it to 200s. Had they not made that mistake, I mean, tough to say what the difference is, but probably 300 or 400s ahead, right?
It might have been possible, yeah. And it kind of looks like the track might lose a bit, because it took them a long time to kind of get up this time.
That's right.
That's not normal for Germans normally.
But they've got this sled set up well. Jan Eichhorn probably did a nice job getting it ready. Or no, this would have been George. It's
So
Jan Eichhorn on the next slide.
Now it's Egert Benniken.
Yeah.
And I'm really interested what they are going to do if they kind of get it more, because normally, like the first 4 sleds were always away from the others.
That's right. Now Poland's in the discussion. That's great news. Okay, Egert and Benniken, the 2-time defending world champions, the 3-time defending World Cup overall champions. They won 5 races last year. They finished 2nd in 5 more races, 1 3rd and 1 5th. That is consistency. Little bit of a turn there at the start, but a quick recovery. 6th fastest start time. Exactly, or close to the same start time as the Tobys.
Yeah, they were like a bit of unsure before Kreisel.
Their biggest ever victory was right here on the Igls track 3 years ago at the World Championships. Little excitement out of 9 and a skid in 10. Wow. 900s back. Speed is not good, 107.8.
Yeah, they don't feel comfortable right now because of this mistake before, probably. They're just in 4th position.
4th position, but way in back of 3rd. So the top three, Poland, Germany, and Russia, are separated by 800ths. Then this German sled is another 10th back. Incredible.
That's really interesting today. I think
So,
that's really...
when I say the women's race will be unpredictable and the men's race would be predictable, I am wrong.
Yeah.
Both unpredictable. Egert and Beneken. And Norbert.
You can see him like feeling with the team.
Okay, still two more Russian sleds, and they have one in the top three already, as a little debrief of the Tobys by Locke. And Egert and Beneken make the slow walk. Stay on your feet. Hope you don't get the red light. Now Vladislav Yuzakov and Yuri Pokorov from Russia. Yuzakov, 34 years old. He is one of the oldest athletes on the entire World Cup now. I think the only older athletes would be Raluca, who's about the same age, and Josip Nines.
Yeah, Raluca had birthday yesterday.
So this is a new teaming. Yuzakov, years and years in the sport. He's been in the World Cup since 2008, but with another partner.
Yeah, 2300s back, so let's see if they can make it up like the other Russian team before.
They were 5th overall in the World Cup last year. And they had 2 podiums. They were here in Igls in the World Cup and in the sprint. So that means they like this track. Usually means that. They're back in 5th place right now. And folks, with 3 sleds remaining, we have Poland in 1st place. That sounds a lot like Farquharson.
Yeah.
In the women's race, the young American in her first ever race was in the top 3. Now Poland. Not as big a surprise because, as we said, this is a good
really
Polish team.
They really have potential, yeah. But it's like pretty close here in the back. Like the first 3 sleds are close, and then
there's a big drop off. Egert and Beneken way back. But what does that mean, Madeline? Because Tatiana Ivanova was how far back? 3/10 maybe?
I don't know exactly, but she was
4/10, and she won the race. So a good second run may help anyone in the top 12.
Yeah, let's see where our guys are coming now and doing.
Definitely have established themselves as one of the best in the world now. Stoy and Kohler of Austria. They won 3 races last year, including 2 here on their home track in Innsbruck. There was a lot of pressure on them after Pence and Fischler retired, and they came through for your Austrian team.
Good start curve. Unfortunately, start times are not that good, probably because of his elbow still, Lawrence's elbow.
What happened?
He got like some bone splittered away. Because he was like, because of Sochi probably. So he had to operate. Oh God. No.
So
Yeah.
same thing we've seen a lot. A slight problem out of 9 becomes a bigger problem in 10.
Yeah, and Labyrinth doesn't look that comfortable too.
Speed 107.9. They are going to drop back. Yes, 8th place. So Remy Friedel can only shrug his shoulders. Austria in 8th place, back in 16th place, and in 20th place right now. Poland will be in the top 3 after the first run.
So this is
Amazing.
really getting an interesting second run as well. Really, really interesting. Because I think like still 1800s are still not like too way back, you know, like doubles can make it up, and if they...
No, that's right. I mean, Egert and Beneken certainly can pull a Ivanova here in run number 2. But the Tobys are in the picture. The Russians are sitting right now in 3rd and 5th, and one more Russian sled is getting ready at the top. Alexander Denisov and Vladislav Antonov. And I was talking yesterday with Jason Turdeman, longtime doubles World Cupper, and he said this is the team that everyone is gunning for at the World Championships.
Yeah.
He said they are the favorites.
Yeah, last year they looked like they want to quit before like Sochi, and then in Sochi they
won
so
both
strong.
races and the relay. So that was a good way to finish.
Yes.
That's a good way to say maybe I'll wait before I quit.
That's true. Ooh. Not the perfect start curve.
Through the Kreisel now, 270 degrees, good form. How far back? Already 0.2 of a second.
Yeah, I think it really is a track. Can you see like all the water dropping from the track? I think it's just losing. They're a lot back. There's 300s already.
So the third and final Russian sled crosses the finish line in 13th place.
And like Albrecht has no idea how that happened.
Now when it's not snowing, you know, I mentioned to Johnny earlier in run number 1 that Ivanova moving from 13th to 1st is the biggest I've ever seen a move on a day that it's not snowing.
Yeah.
And it's not snowing here. We are seeing some of the same stuff. Could anyone realistically make a protest?
I'm not sure if you can protest in this case because like now they are a bit back, so now they can get the time and it will
Run
change.
number 2, yeah.
Yeah, so
And they're doing everything they can to get this track.
I can't imagine if it makes even sense to make a protest because it's sport, you know. It's you can't put it into a hall or something. So just look at the second run, you know. So
final sled. We got one more before we talk about the second. Will it be Olympic medalists in the lead, or will it be a Polish team leading for the first time ever? Doubles teams come and go, but the Sheets brothers stick around forever. This, I believe, is their 18th season on the World Cup. They captured Olympic silver in Vancouver. They captured a pair of bronze medals at the Sochi Olympics.
So some people who compete here were like born when they were started competing in the World Cup.
Yeah, they were 4th overall last year. They don't podium a lot, but they're never out of the top 6 or 7. Already 1,700s back.
Yeah.
If they can improve there, they'll be 7th, 8th place.
I think it's the most important thing for them is to like keep it and don't lose it.
They were very good at, yeah, they did a nice job between 9 and 10. Great transition.
Yeah, they're doing everything they can, but now feet down. And let's see where they will be.
11th place. I got to admit, as a neutral announcer, not affiliated with any one nation, this has been a fun day.
Yeah, that's true. I think it's really interesting. Like for the Polish team, it's like a huge surprise. Probably they were like, "Wow, this was really good," and they want to make it a good second run. But I think it's getting interesting for the second run. Who's going to do it?
We're going to need a hardcore Luge fan, if someone's watching out there, to tell me the last time Poland won a heat. Any run, first heat, second heat, on the World Cup, International World Championship, Olympics. You might have to go back to the 1960s. But it's Poland leading the way. Again, not a huge surprise. This is a team a lot of people expect big things from, but they lead over the 4-time Olympic gold medalists. Defending World Cup champs are in 4th place. Goyaka Gam in the top 10. Nagler and Malaya on their home track should move up a few spots if it's anything like the women's competition. Some of these teams from 20th especially to 24th either struggled big time. Welcome to the start of the 42nd season on the Wiesmann Luge FIL World Cup, and for the 6th time, the Olympic ice track at the foot of the Pachakofel Mountain outside of Innsbruck, Austria, is the site of the World Cup opener. Hello once again, everyone. I'm Tim Singer. We're getting ready for run number 2 of the doubles competition on a windy, now cloudy day and a relatively warm day here in Innsbruck, Austria. Why do we give you a weather report? Well, right now I bring in my guest athlete commentator from Team Austria, Madeline Igls, to tell us just why. The weather very much affects what happens here, right?
Yeah. Hey, thanks again. Well, the weather conditions are like from the first to last sled. It always depends on how much the track loses. So it's going to get interesting if like the first sled will have more chance than the other ones.
Yes, and when the ice is in better condition. Now here are those that benefited in the first run. The Russians, Kashin and Korsakov, find themselves in third place. The four-time Olympic gold medalist, Vendel and Art. That's not a big surprise as they're in the hunt. The biggest surprise perhaps in years is this sled from Poland, Chmielewski, Kowalewski. They went early, they took the lead, they held on, and we have our researchers working on some fun trivia as we look at the start list and their split times. They will go from worst to first, and we're trying to figure out the last time a brand new nation ended up on the World Cup podium. If Poland does it today, it'll be their first ever. I believe you may have to go back to the early 2000s, 2002, 2003, when Canada, Tyler Seitz won a World Cup medal. That may be the last time there was a new nation on the World Cup podium. So this could be an historic and exciting day. Well, it's already an exciting day just based on the unpredictable racing as we get set for run number 2. First up from Moldavia, Yanat Siskano and Julian Opria. They had a 42.219. This is their first ever World Cup race. And maybe this Moldova is a nation we'll be talking about in 10 years, Madeline, as they have their first World Cup podium.
That would be interesting, yeah. Now let's see what they do if they make it better. And they are just trying to make experience, trying to get there.
The first several sleds we're going to see here, the one Austrian sled, the Americans, the Italians, they all have big trouble at the start. So this team's already passed the first test.
Yeah, they're sliding a clean line, so it looks they can be happy about that run.
World Cup Luge is 2 runs, a combined time competition, so the clock running is actually added on from their first heat. In the first run, they were 42.219. Here, they're 41.676. That's better than a half second ahead. And that's how you want to walk away at the end of the weekend, knowing that you improved.
I think they can be happy with this run. They can take this with them. So, probably for tomorrow's team relay. And, yeah, I think that's good for the first thing.
We have seen several teams in doubles and earlier today in the women's competition struggle on corners and curves that historically are not as challenging. So we do have a question coming in on Twitter for you, Madeline. It's from our good friends Luge Moms, and they want to know if you think the curve shapes are throwing off some of the veteran teams, the shapes of the curve.
Well, I'm just not sure if, like, we have a new track team, and they're having a hard time to really get this track into shape because they're just not that experienced. So I'm not sure if it's like shaping off. I more think that they are just, when you always like prepare this leg again, the track again, it's just, they just spritz over it and don't put the ice away. So that might be the thing that makes the problems.
First of 3 Austrians, the young team, Gott and Schock. And already they're having issues on that straightaway to Kreisel.
They just crashed. So that's the next thing, like out of 6, it's so hard this time to like get a straight line into Kreisel. So let's see if they finish their run or not. They still have the
They've maintained contact with the sled. And if they can start themselves, but I think is that Veronica Halter down there?
It looks like they don't want to continue.
One of the coaches is just advising them, let's not take that any further. But they could have, right?
Yeah, they could have. You can slide until, I mean, they could even start pedaling because I think the line is on 13, curve 13.
So what happened?
So they hit here and then they went up and hit the walls, and then, you know, like in the entrance, they kind of just flipped over. It's something. I mean, this time 6 to 7 is harder than normally probably because our track team like just spreads over it and don't take out the ice. And now, yeah, First World Cup, first experience. They are fine.
And they get great hand clapping from the local spectators. So.
Yeah.
So that's Renny Friedel. He's the head coach of this Austrian team, a team that won bronze at the Olympic Games in the team relay and gold in men's singles.
Yeah,
it's a strong program that you're part of.
I'm not even sure if it ever happened to crash to Kreisel before in Igls.
I was wondering. I mean, we saw one crash in the opening race today. That was down low. We have seen crashes over the years out of curve 9, lower labyrinth. But before Kreisel, wow.
Yeah.
Ludwig Lieder and Patrick Rossner as they clear the track pretty quickly for the first of the Italian teams. And this is a team that has won World Cup podiums on this track several years ago. They were 6th at the World Championships this past season in Winterberg, Germany. They had a major problem early in run number 1.
Yeah, let's see if they can make it up. I mean, they should be in front of the Moldavians if they have a good run. Because that's not where they wanted to be and what they expected.
No, this was a team that you would think would be in the top 5, but there's a lot of this opening race that you would think that hasn't unfolded.
Yeah, that's true.
Let's, well, we have a minute, and I'm sure they will take over the lead. Let's talk about the unusual past week at this track. When most of the nations showed up here 7 days ago, they were not happy with the track, and things changed quickly, didn't they?
Yeah, let's say like we've been here 3 weeks ago, I think, and we were like, okay, our man couldn't even go from man start. But our coach really, he said like they need to do something, there needs to be done something, otherwise the World Cup might be in danger not to be here. So we got some track workers from Koenigsee and they tried to make it up, and they were working as well with our ones really hard. So
the track workers came from the nearby German track. They made this race ready, and a lot of the athletes, despite how crazy the racing has been, a lot of the athletes I've spoken with, they say the track's in good shape.
Yeah, that's what I totally think as well. Before it was really bumpy and the profiles were a bit weird, and now they kind of figured it out. Not that I'm saying that we have a bad track team, they're just too new to kind of like know what to do, and we had some really bad weather conditions, like with so much snow at once and the wet snow, and it was so much things to get out of the track, so they were just behind and they couldn't work with our things here.
The lone American team in today's race, Chris Masner, Jason Turneman, the top man Masner, the Olympic silver medalist in singles, before re-teaming with his old doubles partner Jason Turneman last season. They had a lot of trouble here at the start in run number 1, a little less so, although Masner has been banged up with injuries the latter half of last year, so far in the early going with the training here. They won the Lillehammer Cup. That was the preseason international race held in Norway, but that was with a different sled. And they're trying a new sled, Madeline, and that can be an adventure sometimes.
Yeah, it can be, but now they are showing a pretty clean run. Let's see how they do the labyrinth, but it looks good. It looks like they're now found their way.
Great speed, 110 kilometers an hour, and they do indeed find their way to the finish. Well out in front of the Italians. Jason and I were talking about having a new sled and sort of likened it to when you get a new puppy. And you need to know you're going to have several months to teach that puppy how to be trained and how to behave, and it's the same with a new luge sled.
Yeah, you got to get used to it. And sometimes you kind of find it earlier, sometimes not. But it's all about luge. You have to develop. Because if you always turn your own sled on the same sled, you probably will fall behind.
The Americans out in front. Chris usually talks to the camera, but at least a nice positive gesture is one thing. Up next from Czech Republic, Videjek and Pekny. And most of the spectators are Austrian, nearby Italian fans, some German fans. But there are some North Americans here. I think Johnny Gustafson family I saw here. So they'll watch tomorrow's race.
Yeah, it took a really long way to get here.
So earlier, Madeline, Just a few moments ago I said luge sled, and that's actually redundant. That's repeating myself, because you know what luge means?
Yeah.
It's the French word for sled.
Yeah.
So luge sled is sled.
That's true. Yeah, I know it from French because I learned a bit of French.
And
so.
in Austrian it's rodel.
Yeah.
German schlitten.
Yeah, you can say that.
I'm out of languages. Just have those four. Well, the Czech Republic falls from, or moves from the green into the red, and now considerably into the red, 1600s back. Not a lot of problems, but it indicates that the Americans had a good run right before them.
Yeah, Americans had a good run, and they seem to be happy. And there he's talking.
Now talking, right. Earlier today, it was the women's competition. In case you missed it, it was won by Russia's Tatiana Ivanova, her 11th career victory. The USA ended up second, and two German women tied for third place to the 1,000th of a second. Amazing. How does that happen after, what is it, 2 kilometers of racing? 1,000th of a second.
Well, I mean, you sometimes can't see where you lose speed or win speed, and it happens. That's why we got the 1000s and not the 100s, because I think on 100s it would happen so much more often.
And the other sliding sports and some of the skiing sports still use the 100, but it doesn't seem to be as big a problem. It shows you how close luge is. Now, we were talking about Mazda. Here are some Austrian singles competitors that made the switch this year to doubles. Yannick Müller, just 20 years old. Armin Frauscher, a 2-time World Cup podium winner in singles, but frozen out of the deep Austrian singles program, trying doubles now.
Yeah, they're doing, I think they're doing good for the first season, and Yannick never did doubles before. So let's see if they can hang on right now. But they had a good start curve.
Big advantage. Half a second up on the Americans.
And that's okay, yeah, that's good. Looks like they're having a good run.
It's all about consistency, and in luge it means you need not one but two good runs. They're skidding a little bit here. Now they're skidding a lot. Can they give up a half second?
No, I don't think so.
No, they keep that, they maintain just the same advantage, but it could have been a lot more.
They even got the first heat, so.
Big ovation from the hometown crowd. In fact, hometown, Frauscher's home, is only about 500 meters from here in the nearby town of Lans. Yannick Müller from Bludenz, where there's a new track, right? A second Austrian track in the city of Bludenz.
It's not there yet, but they're trying to build it.
Okay.
Like, I think it should have been here like last year. There should have been a
2
junior
years
world
ago,
team.
yeah. A shorter track it's going to be, right?
Yeah, it's just for juniors. Or I think you can make a sprint there, but not a World Cup. It's too short.
Well, they gave away a lot at the bottom half, but they earned a lot at the top half. So it's Austria leading over the USA and Italy in the early going here at the opening World Cup race in Innsbruck.
They showed that they can be fast because they had a fast time even though they had so many mistakes. They're so huge.
Action continuing here, World Cup #1. Last year's winners from Germany, Egert and Bennekin, are back in 4th place. We still have the Germans, the Russians, the Latvians, but now the story within the story, small nations. Here's Romania, next up Ukraine, then Korea, and in the lead after the first heat, the team from Poland. So history could happen today. Let's see what Honderek and Alanai can do for Romania.
Yeah, they're already 2,500 back. I think it's going to be hard for them to catch it up. Even though they had some mistakes downstairs, I think it won't be possible.
This is out of curve 10, or no, this is the finish, the uphill to the finish, and they are a half second back of Müller and Frauscher of Austria. 26 nations came to Innsbruck for the World Cup opener. 126 athletes. Great representation. Doubles luge will become a women's doubles sport. It actually already is on the junior level. And they will host the first real major international luge competition, the Youth Olympics. Later this year, they will have women's doubles. So that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting thing if the women do the same like the men's doubles.
Tightening up those helmet straps, grabbing the handles. The next team is from Ukraine, Yor Shtakiev, Andrei Lisetsky. Last year at the World Championships, they finished in 19th place. They were 20th overall in the World Cup.
So they've got 800s in front of Muller and Frauscher.
That's not a lot, as we just saw
the
the sled before them a half second back pretty quickly.
It's
so
going
this
to be
will
a challenge
turn
for
red.
them to catch up.
And it turns red just like that, 600's back. If it's anything like the racing we've seen all day, teams just don't have any chance to make up time down at the bottom.
It's really hard to make up time, especially when it tracks.
Sometimes you can, but that's not today. That's not right here.
No.
So will they be top two? They are. They hold on to their second place spot.
They made up
back
some
just
time.
one. They did make up a little time.
Because Muller Frauscher had some problems at the bottom.
That's right.
So all the teams will make probably up a bit of time down there where they had the problem.
The Americans had the best speed, 110.8, but they had a lot of time at a disadvantage over the next few sleds. Good look at the mountains in the background. You grew up not far from here?
Yeah, I'm pretty close. I'm living like 12 minutes away from here.
It's a beautiful place to grow up, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I often realize it when I'm somewhere else, like how beautiful home is. Because when you're always at home, you don't realize it for real.
As we mentioned in run number one, it's been great to see the Koreans stay with the sport. It's not uncommon, unfortunately, for nations to prepare and host an Olympics and then sort of disappear in the smaller winter sports. It hasn't been the case with Korea. Park and Cho have been plugging along for about a decade now, ever since Korea was awarded the Games, and they're still at it. Yingyang Park, Young Myung Cho, 17th in the overall World Cup last year.
And late entrance into 9, having some small problems out of there. And it looks like they are not able to hold on. Already 28 hundredths back. So it looks like Muller and Frauscher are making up one more spot.
So Muller and Frauscher entered the run in 18th place. They picked off 3. How many more can they? And the next 3 are all within that time differential that they could seemingly better.
I actually think that if Denisov Antonov are next, if they have a clean run, they will overget them. Because like they still had some huge mistakes at the 11th.
Right.
And you saw like even Park Cho, they made up like to 1100. So.
But we said that in the women's race. We kept saying
Yeah,
that. And then
true.
all of these sleds kept falling behind Ivanova of Russia.
That's true, but I think it's like too early to already lose the time.
That's right. Too early to crown a champion.
Yeah.
Coming up later on, 3 German sleds, including 2nd and 4th place. We've got a couple of Russian sleds in the top 5. Poland leading the way. But now up, we have the first of the Russians, Denisov and Antonov. They've been at it for a while, 2-time Olympians, including a 5th place finish at the Olympics on their home track in Sochi. They also won silver, Olympic silver in the team relay in Sochi.
Yeah, Yeah, I think they are pretty much favorites for the Sochi World Champs.
The World Championships will be later this year on their home track. Several athletes I spoke to yesterday are pointing at these two to be the ones to beat. And they won not one, but 2 World Cup races to complete last season.
Now they hang on 1200s. It's quite okay. So it looks like these guys are taking over the lead now.
And you were correct.
Well, it's...
so far, yeah. It's the intermediate split, not the final split. Here we are uphill to the finish.
They are having some problems.
And it could be tight. No, they do. They had the sled set up really well, clearly, as they opened up a lead despite a couple of small taps.
Yes, and Miller Russia had the mistakes down there, so...
So good call on your part by saying they could take over the lead. They do it. And Madeline, you were saying earlier that this is a team that was very close to retiring.
Yeah, I think so.
And then all of a sudden they win 2 races last year.
Yeah.
And here they are back again.
That's quite motivation to say, like, let's keep doing it. Let's do it one more time.
Yeah, nothing keeps you motivated more than winning.
Because I think they just went. They didn't go for a lot of races last season.
Well, let's see. I've got them back not in the top 17. Oh no, actually 13th place, but they missed the first 6 races.
Yeah.
So top 13 just by virtue of the final 6 races.
That's why everyone.
Half a season.
That's why everyone kind of thought that they retired.
Okay, Latvia. Putins Marcinkevic, 22 or 24 and 25 years old, respectively. They call their favorite track in the world the track in Calgary, Canada.
Oh no.
Unfortunately, Luge fans, a city we all love visiting, Calgary, their track is temporarily on hold. We hope temporarily, and that they will rebuild this track. They've got such a great program, a great indoor facility.
And it's such a cool track, really. It's one of the most amazing luge tracks I've ever slid, and that I have huge problems.
Major issue off of curve 9 as they hit the wall, they skid. They do recover well enough, but that 700s back is going to multiply here.
Yeah, they will lose a lot of time. They might even fall behind, but will fracture.
The Latvians do fall behind the Russians and Austria. Russia leading the way midway through run number 2. Twelve have come down, 12 remain. Wow.
There you can see like the tape going away. I mean, curve 10 is in a really good shape right now because you can go in like you want and you still have a chance to get out of there. So but you see, even the good doubles have problems today.
Right.
So
we've seen several good teams have problems. Here's a young team, maybe surprised to be in the top half of the field. Tomas Vaverček and Maciej Žmiš from Slovakia. And they're 500s only up in front of the Russians, so they have a lot of work to do. They've never been at an Olympic Games, but they did take part at the Youth Olympics. Ooh, trouble right there. Youth Olympics in 2016 were in Lillehammer.
Oh, you see the troubles out of 6?
Yep.
That's
Amazing.
what I mean. Like, this time normally it never is any kind of problem. And this week I felt like a lot of people had problems because a lot of coaches were standing from 6 to Kreisel.
They do have a nice exit of 9 in their transition to 10. Madeline, you're a Youth Olympics medalist, and we have a new games coming up this year in Switzerland. So exciting time for a lot of young athletes.
That's true, that's true. It's always some, like, getting to know the small Olympics.
Now, okay, so here's interesting trivia. Are you the first athlete ever to win Olympic medals in the Youth Olympics and the Senior Olympics?
I think so,
okay.
Yeah.
You will always have that title. That's great. It's Russia leading over Austria and Latvia with 11 remaining. things.
Yeah,
It's
that's
being knocked around quite a bit.
And then you can see, like, out of 6, it's hard because there's so much ice at the exit of 6, so it's kind of pushing you away from the exit you want to go into Kreisel.
Russia out in front. Now the familiar doubles faces of Andres and Joris Schitz. They've been around longer than anyone in this discipline. They are the only athletes in all of World Cup Luge that can date their resume back to the Olympics in Torino. With Tatjana Höfner retiring, here are the only 4-time Olympians, and they've been good all of these years in the World Cup.
Yeah, they are keeping up, and they always show what they can do sometimes in the year.
They've finished in the top 8 in the World Cup standings in 13 of the last 14 years.
Wow.
So that's consistent.
That's
3
really...
Olympic medals, 1 in Vancouver, 2 in Sochi.
Now they're showing a pretty good run here.
The brothers from Sigulda opening up a 0.2 of a second lead.
Yes.
They're one of several sleds that had trouble in run number 1, whom you would expect to move up a few spots here in the second heat. They hold on to their spot for the time being, and well out in front of the Russians. The brothers Igls from Latvia in front with 10 sleds remaining.
Yeah, they just opened up the game because now it's getting a bit closer. Like the next few sleds are pretty much together.
Now the race begins, actually, right?
Yeah,
None of this moving from 13th place to first place like we saw earlier today in the women's event.
I mean, I think no one really had so many problems and was in the front like Tatiana Ivanova. So, and she showed so fast times in training. So everyone kind of thought with her as a favorite before the race.
That's right, yeah, they sure did. Here in the beautiful Austrian Tyrolean Alps, World Cup number 1, the doubles competition. I'm Tim Singer along with Olympic medalist Madeline Igls. The final 2 sleds getting ready to go now. Latvia with the lead down at the bottom. Here is Italy, Nagla and Malaya.
Let's see with 500s if they work with their 500s.
Their advantage over the Latvians was only about 300s after the first run. So let's see with this split. They're losing a little bit of time, but still a relatively clean run.
Yeah, they're having a clean run. And he tries to put his head back as far as he can. But it's still like Schitz showed their routine and their experience.
Now they fall behind, despite decent speed, 109.7, but that's 2 kilometers an hour slower than the Latvians. They drop 1 spot. Respectable, but not enough. This is a team that came out of nowhere 2 years ago.
But they just showed their fists, so...
Yeah, they pumped their fists. They'll walk away happy. Not a lot of teams are going to bring full squads over to North America, but I believe this Italian doubles team will make the World Cup trip.
Yeah, I think so. And Reader Keinswellner just told me that they want to come
Whistler.
back in Whistler.
That's right, Emanuel Reader, another Italian team. He, former single slider, started doubles last year, broke or did something to his foot earlier in training.
It's his middle foot? He broke his middle foot?
Well, you only have 2 feet, so you either have a left foot or a right foot, right? No, middle foot. The
like,
middle of the foot.
Yeah, sorry. And he wants to come back, and the worst thing was he kind of broke it when he hit the wall. He didn't crash or anything, he just hit the wall. So that's kind of weird.
What was also kind of weird was the season these 2 Germans had last year. Robin Goyeka and David Gaum, 2 very well-liked, always friendly athletes around the track. Last year was supposed to be the breakout year with the World Championships on their home track, with the national championship they won. But week in and week out, something went wrong. And it was just one of those things they could not shake all year.
Yeah, now they need to try to shake it off in the second run to get over it.
New season and
new chance.
It's tough enough to be third in the depth chart in doubles in Germany. You know, even making the Olympics is a challenge.
Yeah. Oh no, having huge mistakes here. That will cost him so much time. And here again. Oh no.
Unfortunate for the pair from Winterberg. Goyek and Gam, they're falling all the way back 10 positions. And to be honest, Madeline, just when everything went wrong for them last year, I wondered if we'd even see them this year, whether there was some other young German team that might be team number 3. Here they are, but they're still having the trouble.
And they had to go for qualifications, so like...
I guess they came through when it mattered. But look at this, out of 9, right into the far wall. Nothing you can do then.
I think it's just so hard, you know, like if you know in your head behind you, like you know that you had such a bad season and you want to show everyone what you can do. And I kind of know how they feel. So it's like you want to show that what you can do, and then you just sometimes make mistakes. And they now need to try to get over it, come back to Lake Placid and do it.
And we hope they come to Lake Placid. But Robin's reaction there at the finish says it all, as does David's head shake. Now the Austrian Stoyan Kohler. It's been a great tradition in doubles luge for Austria in the 21st century, with the world champion Igls and the Olympic champion Lingers, Pence and Fischler, and now Stoyan Kohler. 3 victories last year, second in the overall World Cup. And Madeline, like so many, your teammates had trouble in run number 1 here.
Yeah. And now they try to make it up and try to get there and fix their problems. It looks good right now.
900s up, and they'll need to stay clean to stay out in front of a veteran Latvian team
Beautiful
that was
exit.
very clean.
Looks good now. The labyrinth is the most important now. And they're expanding a bit late into this, but
Little late,
good.
but a 1/10 of a second up at the last split. That's too much to give away. They will have the lead, losing just a bit of time in the last few curves. So it's Austria over Latvia, Italy, and Russia, the top 4 right now, with 7 still to come in Innsbruck.
yeah, they showed a solid run, but I'm not sure if it was fast enough to
overtake the next few sleds. Well, I mean, look at the splits. Canada and Latvia, the next 2, are pretty close to the Austrians.
They're pretty close.
They could
So
move up a few spots.
I think it's like pretty close until the 4th place.
That's right. Outside chance even at a medal. I mean, Stoyan and Kohler won both World Cup races here last year.
And
Clearly
I think their goal was a medal this week, but it's not wishing, like, right?
It'd be a long day for Austria if they don't capture 1 podium today. There are no less than 5 men tomorrow that could end up on the podium, which will be interesting
And you're right,
to see.
like every one of these 5 men could make the podium.
1 Canada sled over the past several years on the World Cup, and Tristan Walker and Justin Smith have done a good job trying to maintain the Canadian pride here. Somewhat disappointing year last year, but the Olympic medalists started well here in run number 1. Walker, the top man, is spending a lot of the offseason now learning how to be a helicopter pilot.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
And he was telling me the fun thing about that, if you want to call it fun, is the steering between the feet is exactly the opposite as a luge sled.
Oh,
so
God.
you need the right foot to go right.
Oh my God, huge.
They have problems there. Maybe he was thinking about the helicopter.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, so that's an interesting extra challenge.
Yeah.
The Olympic silver medalists for the Canadian team relay to the finish. They fell behind the Austrians midway, and they fall back 3 positions.
Even behind Nagla Malar, yeah.
So they saved the best for first, unlike a lot of the top contending teams and women's earlier.
Yeah,
Saved the
that's
best
true.
for last.
They had the fastest start time in the first run. Not sure what they pulled now.
Their start time for Canada was also the fastest here in the second run at 2.031, so that's decent. That's actually a good sign for a team that's been around for a while.
That's true, yeah.
Top 6 getting set to go at the top. Here at the bottom, it's Austria leading over Latvia and Italy. Now the next Latvian team, Oskars Grudramovic and Pitelis Kalnins, both from the capital city of Riga, which is about a 45-minute drive from the track in Sigulda, depending on the traffic. No, a poor start, 12th fastest.
Yeah, start is like their real thing to work with. But
Yes.
they're really fast at the bottom, and they just shouldn't lose too much at the top.
How much can you give away at the top? That's the question. They didn't make any mistakes, but the start was a little slower. They were the fastest yesterday in the final day of training, which means something sometimes.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they can manage, because it looks like they will fall behind Steichholler.
Will they fall behind their teammates? Yes, they do. So Sheets and Sheets are in second place, Stoy and Kohler in first. And like the women's race earlier today, there is a bit of a return to normality. There were so many surprises after run number 1 of the women, but in the end, you had the Russian, the American, and the Germans, who everyone thought might be in the
Now it's
picture.
just Germany, Russia, Austria.
And here, this could happen at the end as well. But
Let's wait.
keep the suspense going, folks, because the last sled that goes here in run number 2 is the sled from Poland, trying to win that nation's first ever World Cup podium. Even if it's not a win, most of the luge world is rooting for them to do something special.
True, yeah. It's just not a question, does the track hold itself, or will it lose a bit of its good shape?
For the 6th time, the World Cup opening race is here in beautiful Innsbruck, Austria, and we're down to our final 5 sleds here in run number 2 of the doubles competition. Vladislav Yusakov and Yuri Prokhorov. The Russians are so deep in all of the disciplines. I believe last year there were 7 different Russians winning World Cup races in the 3 disciplines of doubles, men and women.
Yeah, Russia's pretty strong. They always show how fast they can be. Doing some good job right now and expanding their advantage.
About 700, nice exit of curve 9. They're doing everything they need to do. The question is the track holding out?
It looks
They're
like they're
losing half of that advantage, and now they're compounding that with mistakes. The Austrians will stay out in front. This should turn red, and it does. So second place overall, the 3rd best run of the heat, and they had the chance, Madeline. It was in their hands or on their sled.
It looks really like the track is not letting down as much as in the first run.
As much as in the first run or as in the women's race. But we won't know for sure until we see a perfect run.
That's true.
I mean, this was really perfect through 10 curves, or through curve 10.
And here the mistake happens, and he's trying to hold on.
Austria, Russia, Latvia, Italy, the top 4 with 4 remaining. The world champions are, in fact, the 2-time defending world champions from the Thuringian region of Germany. Tony Agard, the airplane pilot, and his bottom man, Sasha Bennekin. They are Olympic bronze medal winners. They are 3-time defending World Cup overall champions. They do just about everything right. In fact, being on the podium in all but 1 race last season.
Well, that's...
But they're on the outside looking in right now, 4th place after run number 1.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that they're thrilled to get that run down and show what they can do.
I'm trying to remember, they had a couple of mistakes down low in the first heat.
Yeah.
And that's what cost them. Other than that, the sled was set up pretty well. And 600, so we just saw that with the sled that came down before them, and they gave it away.
They also had some kind of...
A little bobble back and forth. They did open it up a little bit, so guaranteed top 4. It was a nice run for the Austrians in that leader zone, the leader box. But it's Germany putting themselves in the discussion. Depending what happens with the final 3 sleds, they could win yet another podium.
It looks like the track could get faster because now they pulled a 40.20.
So could it be that we're getting later in the day, the sun is gone, might be getting a little cooler out. Maybe that's speeding up the track. Not much to criticize there. It was a great run.
Yeah.
Tony Egert, Sascha Bennekin in the lead for Germany. Germany won all but 3 races last year, or actually 5 races. Austria won 3 and Russia 2. Germany won all of the rest. Now we go to a Russian team. The youngest of the Russians, Kashkin and Korshunov. And the one Russian doubles team you figure probably can't keep up with Egert and Bennekin unless they do something really nice here.
I mean, the Russian sleds are here today really fast, so...
They had a tenth of a second advantage.
But they need a clean run, a really good run.
That tenth of a second disappeared just like that. So Germany will be on the podium unless something incredible happens in the final 6 curves here.
Well, I'm not sure if they can keep it up. They're already losing a lot of time.
They're going to fall out of the top 2. They may fall out of the top 4 back into 5th or 6th place. And I'm not really sure where that happened.
Well, they had a good run. I'm not sure what happened either. Like, if it's the track, does it really slow down? Because they were off the handles a bit earlier than the others. So, I don't know.
Well, Germany has the lead as we take a look at this Kreisel. They're a little up and down, so it's not the straightest line, but it wasn't an awful line. And then the exit of 9, just a little peek up. Not bad.
Doesn't look too bad to lose so much time normally, but like Germans are fast, so.
That's an understatement in the sport of luge. Germans are fast.
Yeah.
Germany with the lead.
Really fast.
Egert and Bennekin out in front. Now they're teammates and, dare I say, biggest rivals in the sport. Wendel and Alt getting set to go.
They got 1200s to go. So let's see what they make with these 1200s.
1200s is normally a lot, a big advantage in the sport of luge. Hasn't been as big today in Innsbruck. 4-time Olympic gold medalists, 2014, 2018. They won both the doubles and the relay. They have played second fiddle to Egert and Bennekin on the World Cup over the last 3 years.
Yeah, I think it will get interesting if they have a clean run, if they lose a lot of time. But then we can kind of say what the track's doing.
Now the Bavarians are on course. Their home is about a 2-hour drive from here, a lot closer if you could go over the mountains. So this is their second home track behind Koenigsegg. Their second closest to home.
Yeah. Looks like they're driving good lines.
They've lost just 100th of a second. That's not a lot. And the lines, as you mentioned, are great for the 2 Tobys.
700, still losing a bit, so.
Now they had a little bit of a skid, not much, but is it 700ths much? This is going to be tight. Germany against Germany, 9 thousandths of a second separate these 2 world champion sleds. And it's Egert Bennekin staying out in front of Wendel and Alt.
So close.
So close. And whether or not they finish second or third, I think the Tobys may leave Igls disappointed, because as you know, they are only gunning for one sled, and that's Igls and Bennigan.
Yeah, this little skid kind of might have cost them. Even though I believe that the track slowed down as well.
Well, all of the great World Cup champions and race winners have finished, but there's still one sled to go. And this is one of the most anticipated moments in many years in the sport of luge. The first run leaders are waiting at the top. The doubles team of Wojciech Chmielewski and Jakub Kowalewski. As you see the top three for the moment, will history be made? This small nation, very little financing, looking to be on the podium for the first time ever. And they will need a 1, 2, or 3 down at the bottom. That's the number we're looking for.
And they need a very clean run.
And everyone is rooting for them.
So how much did they lose? 400s, that's all right.
1700s. Could they win it, Madeline?
Oh, no!
And how many times do we see this happen? What could be a major story all disappears with one bad turn.
Oh, God. They will be very, very...
Igls and Bennigan captured gold, silver for Germany as well. And like the women's race, Madeline, when all is said and done, the 3 race favorites end up in the top 3 positions. Heartbreak for Poland, which was trying to become the first nation in 18 years to win its first World Cup podium.
Yeah.
And they fall short.
Oh, yeah, that's...
They drop back to 13th place. One thing, if it's any consolation, and we'll probably take a look at this replay again as the Germans celebrate, is I don't think they're going anywhere. I think we are going to see some top 5 finishes from Poland before this year is out. And there are a lot of people excited about this team.
They just got to work on their consistency. Just
clearly
keep working, and they might have the chance to do that.
So Tony and Sasha know at this moment that they've won the race, but even they feel badly for the team from Poland.
Because I think like everyone kind of wanted to see some sensation, like having them on the podium. There you can see Sasha talking to Thomas.
As I mentioned, just like the women's race earlier today, when all of the craziness is through, you have the 3 pre-race favorites standing on the podium at the end of the day: Germany, Germany, and Austria. The Latvians in 5th place, continuing their consistency. Canadians falling back a couple of spots in run number 2, but a top 10 for Walker and Smith. The Poland team with the heartbreak of run number 2, dropping from 1st to 13th. And a look at all of the other finishers here in the field. Of 24 at the start of the day, we had a did not finish in run number 2.